Okay, I will address in this talk the question of predicting and producing bacchannel by virtual agents. And for doing that, I will describe and propose a new integrated model implementing all these virtues. So this is the outline of the talk. Two parts in this talk. First, I will briefly give reminders about backchannels and how to implement backchannels with virtual agents, and in particular focusing on the classical architectures for doing that. And in the second part of the talk, I will present what we call the one-loop model, and more precisely by presenting the predictive features we are working on. And this is very important to us because we're trying to bring together all types of linguistic features, whatever their level. And finally, I will give some details about the implementation and the algorithm used for this one-loop model. Okay, so backchannels and virtual agents. As all of you probably know, backchannels are those signals produced by listeners that can be verbal and non-verbal, and used to indicate attention to the speaker. What is very important is to consider this backchannel within the loop, this production perception loop. Well, we all know that backchannel production is not only very important for indicating attention, but also in the elaboration of the knowledge, of the shared knowledge between the two attendees of the conversation. This shared knowledge is called in linguistics the common ground. So two main issues to address in this case: how to indicate attention and how to participate, to contribute, thanks to these backchannels, to the elaboration of this knowledge. So the goal of this work is to improve the ability of the virtual agents to produce various and appropriate backchannels embodied into conversational agents. In the literature, we usually distinguish between two types of backchannels. The first one are called the generic backchannels. They are signals used to express interest, attentiveness of what the current speaker is producing. They are usually vocal items, such as the yeah, or other type of vocal items, but also gesture signals such as notes. What is very important with the generic backchannels is that they do not respond to the content, and they only display understanding and attention to the speaker, which is completely different with the specific backchannels. These backchannels are indicating assessments, comments, and they are tightly connected with what the speaker is saying. There is something to do with the comprehension, with the understanding of what the speaker is saying. This type of backchannels are usually brief verbal utterances, hand gestures, intonation, particular intonation, and so on and so forth. Again, what is very important is that the difference with the generic backchannels, specific backchannels are connected with the narrative contents, and they need, in order to be produced, they need to rely on the understanding of what the speaker is saying. So in this sense, they are context sensitive. Here are some examples. I will show you some examples of the different backchannels, and in particular of different modalities. As I already said, backchannels can be visual, non-verbal, or verbal, or bimodal. Here are some examples extracted from the different corpora we are working on. So this is a first visual backchannel. You can see a node or several nodes. This is very difficult to produce only verbal backchannel, but we have a pronunciation of a short utterance, ah bon? This is in French. This is a bimodal.
Ah ouais, c'est rigolo.
You can see the
ce soir, je vais retrouver des
head nodes, and
ah ouais, c'est rigolo.
Together with the verbal
ce soir, je vais retrouver des.
And finally, this is an example of what we produce with our virtual agents. This is a bimodal backchannel.
Bien. Alors, je vous ai suivi pendant votre coloscopie.
Tout à fait.
Okay, as you can see, there is a head node with a particular expression together with a verbal backchannel. So probably you already recognize the platform we use. This is the Greta platform developed by Catherine Pelachot from yours. And the use case we are working on is to develop a virtual agent used in the specific context of training doctor to break bad news. Okay, this is an ongoing project we are working on since 5 years now, and we are developing an embodied conversational agent simulating a patient. You can see here in the virtual room the doctor interacting with the virtual patient, in this case asking where is her pain, and this is the general context. Okay, this is interesting because well, this very specific context makes it possible again to focus on different backchannel and on different generic and specific backchannel. Before entering into the details of the one loop implementation, just I will remind you the different architectures, some architectures used in the implementation of the behavior realization. And as you can, this is the classical ASAP architecture. There are different modules, the intent planner, behavior planner, and behavior generation. And at each stage of this process, there is, beside the sequential organization, there is a possibility for different modules to directly interfere with this sequential organization in order to send instruction to any of this level, and which is very clear in the schema, which is the PML-based architecture, in which the classical path consists in starting with the audiovisual recognition to understand this recognition, and with the dialogue manager to generate the nonverbal behavior. But this is also possible to generate directly instruction to this nonverbal behavior generation module. So in this case, we can see that there are two different paths, making it possible to send instruction to this generation. This can be interesting, but this can be also the occasion for generating conflicts. And on top of that, this is very unlikely that this type of architecture is cognitively grounded. It's not very cognitively plausible. It's very unlikely that we as human beings are using these two different tracks for generating back channels, for example. So description of the one loop proposal. And first, I focus in this work on specific back channels, generic backchannel and specific backchannels. The generic all of these backchannel types are can be verbal, visual, bimodal, and all of them have several can be realized in several ways. For example, this is in French again. A verbal generic behavior backchannel can be oui, yes, or can be a nod, a smile, or a bimodal backchannel. And this is the same with these 4 different specific backchannels. So we are focusing on these different backchannel. And before doing that, the first question when implementing this this type of task within a dialogue system is the segmentation of the audio signal. This is a very very difficult task because we are a kind of trade-off between having large enough segments in order to capture the semantic and discourse level information, and between small segments in order to have real-time reaction. Obviously, back channels have to be produced in real time and very frequently during a discourse. So for doing that, we use a discourse-based segmentation based on the identification of discourse markers. Discourse markers in French or English, but, and, or, then, and so on and so forth. And the segmentation consisted as soon as we identify a discourse marker, which is very easy to detect in real time, we segment the audio input, and we pass this segment to the analysis of the different linguistic features. Okay, so input segmentation based on discourse marker. This is very efficient and very interesting because this is a kind of approximation of discourse units, but at a very, very low level. And again, this is very efficient doing that in real time. So now what's very important are the predictive features that are to be brought in our model. Two different streams, the audio stream and the transcription stream, the text. And we want to take advantage of analyzing all the different possible features, prosodic features, typically silent positive speech, interposal unit duration, and so on and so forth. And these are some rules we can summarize by Pope in his article years ago. For example, after a pause of 400 milliseconds and so on and so forth, we can generate a generic backchannel. The same with this very generic approximation. After 6 seconds without any backchannel, we can generate again a generic backchannel. And this is from the audio stream, and from the transcription stream, we extract all the other linguistic cues that can be morphosyntactic, for example, post-bigrams. After a bigram made with a verb and an adverb, we can, well, this type of bigram favors the production of a generic backchannel. Information structure, the use of new reference in the discourse, can be associated to an agreement, for example, a specific backchannel, and semantics, which plays obviously a very, very important role in the generation of specific backchannels that are very important in showing the understanding of the virtual region during the process. This is our representation of the semantic, the common ground, the shared knowledge I introduced in the first part of the talk. As you can see, the representation of the knowledge is made is based on different frames. Each frame is made of different slots, different variables. Okay, so this is very well classical, can be some way classical. What's interesting is that the frames can be identified, has to be identified, is starting with the utterances, with the input, the input segment we identified previously. Okay, frames can describe very, very specific knowledge, for example, personal data, but can also describe more general knowledge, and in particular the phases in the discourse. Semantics, two different very important semantic information, the dialogue acts and the slots. The dialogue acts correspond to the frames, to the type of the frames, and the slots correspond to the variables present into the frame. For example, we can associate with the identification of dialogue acts some specific backchannels. The identification of the dialogue act bad news announcement generates a fear. For example, when the doctor announced the patient that they encountered a problem during the surgery, so there is a specific backchannel that is produced by the virtual agent. The same when the doctor produces a social interaction. This is another type of dialogue act. Okay, some dialogue acts can be associated to backchannel, but also some slots. For example, the instantiation of the slot urgency can generate, here in this case, a fear backchannel. Okay. We also want to use the multimodal feature sequences in order to predict, well, we need to bring this type of features into the model. For example, the verb plus a head nod plus a noun produced by the doctor usually generate a nod by the patient. Okay, these rules, then these sequences, sorry, has been extracted from the corpora we annotated, we manually annotated. And finally, this is the general organization of the algorithm, of the backchannel generation algorithm. This is only the core of the algorithm. And in this procedure, everything is processed into what we call a single loop. This is the one loop architecture in this implementation. First, we start with the situation during which the speaker is pronouncing something. Okay, the speaker is saying something. In this case, what we are doing is to extract from the slot filling instantiation of the current segment, we can, I gave some example just in the slide before, we can directly extract some backhannels from the analysis of the slot filling instantiation. Okay, so so this is done when the speaker is speaking. In the case where there is no backchannel which is generated by means of this function, then we enter into this second case in which we analyze, we extract all the possible cues from the current segment, all the linguistic cues, prosodic, but also morphosyntactic, semantic, and so on and so forth. All the cues are extracted, and then we apply, I will give immediately some example of the type of rules we will apply. We apply rules, we apply a treatment, a processing on these cues, on this, all these specific features in order to generate, to try to identify the backchannel. And in the case where none of these function can identify a backchannel to generate, then we have this very generic rule stipulating that in the case where no backchannel has been produced since 6 seconds, then we produce a generic and default backchannel. So finally, the backchannel is passed into this variable, is returned into the backchannel, and then the backchannel to be generated by the module is chosen between the list I presented before. Into the list of the we can choose, thanks to this procedure, we can choose the type of the backchannel, verbal, non-verbal, or bimodal, according to the history, according to the situation, the localization, and so on. This is what we call the backhannel semantic grammar. This is an example of some rules illustrating the generation rules used in the algorithm. For example, if we encounter a new referent, then we generate an agreement backchannel. This is a specific agreement. A specific backchannel. When we identify a dialogue act, which is a social interaction, we generate a generic backchannel. And all these rules, these are only examples of rules. We have tens of them. And rules constitute the backchannel semantic grammars, making it again possible to identify the backchannel type, starting from which we will choose the backchannel to be produced by the virtual agent. So that's the general overview of the one loop system we implemented into our embedded conversational agent. Some of the features, important features for us, is first the specific segmentation, making it possible to identify homogeneous and discourse-based segments of the input. Okay, this is very important, and this is again very efficient. We tested many different segmentation, and this one is very efficient. Second feature, we want to have only interpretable model. In other words, we want to bring together a large set of multimodal linguistic cues. Okay, coming from prosody, morphosyntax, semantics, discourse, syntax, and so on and so forth. Okay, this is very, very important for us. And what we do, thanks to the specific semantic grammars, is to give the possibility to integrate all of these cues, to explain in what sense all of these cues can interact together in order to generate in order to implement the backchannel model. Finally, the one loop system not only makes it possible to avoid the conflict I underlined in the introduction, but also again makes it possible to propose an integrated view into a single path for each utterance, an integrated view of the backchannel production procedure. So we are now again on our way to implement this. We already did some experiments. We still need to improve the semantic grammar and the predictive cue detection. And the next step will be to bring together and to validate and evaluate the system itself. Thank you. Thank you very much for attention.